From Basel, live coverage continuing here of the Swiss indoors, our second live offering of the evening, and the man they have all come to see, Roger Federer, about to take to the stage in the city of his birth. Nick Lester alongside Robbie Koenig for the duration of this contest as his opponent, the man who looks to play the party pooper this evening, Thomas Bellucci, the lefty from Brazil, enters. Done this a few times though, won this a few times as well. 5 times a champion here, the world #1 for how much longer? Because Robbie, it's hanging by a thread really.
Good evening everybody, wherever you are around the world, thanks for tuning in. And yes, but I guess when you've been there 301 weeks, you're not too worried if you are eventually toppled. All-time record as far as holding the #1 ranking is concerned for Federer, and a nice milestone getting over that 300 threshold as well. Remember, 285 was the magic number. That was the number of weeks that Pete Sampras held the world #1 ranking. But Federer in a stratosphere of his own now. But of course, with this tournament being a week earlier, means the points that he was able to gain last year won't come off until the Monday of the Barclays World Tour Finals, in other words the day after the Paris event, so it'll give him a little bit more leeway to hang on to that ranking, of course, because he played so well at the tail end of last year, didn't he, Nick?
He did, undefeated here, Paris, London, nice way to rip through the autumn. And as Robbie was saying, this is 301st week, guaranteed to be 302 weeks. Whether it'll be 303 will depend very much on whether he decides to go to Paris. Still in the balance, I think it's fair to say. We'll see how this week pans out. Already got a win under his belt though on Monday night. That was against Benny Becker. This the second hurdle he has to overcome. Always traditional, Monday, Wednesday. The first couple of days for Federer as Lars Graf in the chair. And I think Federer just suggesting, unsurprisingly, having won the spin, that he will serve. It was a very late finish for this guy last night. In fact, it was gone midnight when
12:32 to be exact. That was what Martin Douglas was telling me, the ATP Tour liaison manager. But of course, what is it, 6 o'clock local time now. He would have slept in today, had a good rest, bring out the blinds, those blackout blinds in the hotel room, make sure all the gaps are filled, and he would have gotten a good sleep, a late breakfast, and then headed over here to get ready for this match. Guys are so used to doing it. That's the nature of being a tennis pro these days. Depending on the schedule, you know, sometimes you've got to adapt to playing early in the morning. Some guys got to play really late in the evening.
Yeah, played well last week, Bellucci, as well, and we'll touch on that in a moment, on that run he had in Moscow. But as we see the numbers as far as Federer's concerned, 76 titles, 5 of those have come here. In fact, it took him a little while to solve this puzzle, didn't it, Rob? We said that, so every year we come here we talk about that. It took him a few years to win here, but when he did, it really opened the floodgates.
Yeah, as you mentioned, 5 times a champion here, and in fact I think he's won 30 of his last 31 matches here at the St. Jakobshalle. It's tough to beat him on this particular court. In fact, the only guy to do it of late was
Novak Djokovic.
Right, 2009 final. I thought I was going to leave that out. I was hoping you were going to take my cue there. That was going to be the trivia question for a little later, but we'll have to think of another one. But, it is so nice that the crowds come out in their throngs here. Again, it's another full house in the St. Jakobshalle to watch one of their own in action. And we often speak about it, but how nice it is for Roger Brenveld, who started this tournament many years ago, to have the greatest player perhaps ever to play the game happen to hail from this very city where he decides to host a tournament. It's almost like having the lottery ticket every year. But it is interesting because his deal with the tournament is up at the end of this year.
Yes.
Long-term commitment.
Doing a little bit of digging yesterday, and we're told this is his last year as far as contractually he is obliged to play here. They are renegotiating, or they will be renegotiating after this tournament as to whether or not he will come back next year. I can't see him not, but anyway. Money will talk, I'm sure. Head-to-head reads like this. The one meeting before, you see that one?
I did, and Bellucci played really well. He used the forehand very effectively, almost Nadal-like, and going to Roger's backhand a lot at Indian Wells. And I think the conditions in Indian Wells favoured him as well. It was a little windy, and it certainly played into his hands. But I think here it's going to be a different story. We know Federer's record indoors is bar none. It is incredible. Well over 200 matches that he's won indoors, and stands head and shoulders against all his other rivals. I'll pull out those numbers in a second, just to give you an idea of how far he's ahead of the likes of Ivan Lubicic. In fact, I don't even think Novak Djokovic has got 100 wins indoors, so that just gives you a good idea of how tough Federer is to beat when there's a roof ahead.
Took advantage last week of a relatively weak field, it must be said, in Moscow. Andreas, where he lost to Andreas Seppi in the final, wins over Chipola, Janovic, Karlovic, and then lost to Seppi. But his first indoor final, and that would have given him plenty of confidence. But prior to that, it's been a pretty barren run for Bellucci. In fact, if you cast your eye over his autumn, he'd gone 4 first-round defeats in 5 events, in fact, prior to Moscow, so perhaps the form that he showed there somewhat of a surprise. Of course, the win over Karlovic indoors, never an easy thing to attain, but Bellucci it was with the victory, and inside the world's top 40. Not really happened for him at the majors this year, the Brazilian. In fact, just one miserly win in 4 events at the majors this year. That really is going to have to improve for him if he's to improve on his current ranking of 34. But as the on-court interviewer was saying prior to when we came on air, he has enjoyed playing in Switzerland. Gstaad, Victor there this year up in the beautiful Alps. Fantastic event, Gstaad. Absolutely so scenic up there. And up on the, just before the Olympic Games, I think it was, Bellucci getting the victory on the red clay up in Switzerland, in the Swiss mountains. But down here in Basel, this is going to be an entirely different proposition. There's Mirka, and to the left of Mirka, of course, is Severin Luthi.
And of course, his best buddy, who's been with him for a while now. Just sitting to the right of Mirka. I'm having a brain cramp because I can't remember his name. Of course, used to play junior tennis with Roger. Rito Staubli, that's who it is. Of course, an investment banker these days is Rito. Got a sneaky feeling Roger might be one of his clients. Good client to have.
Well, yeah, that's true. Federer, as I say, opening things up on Monday, played Benjamin Becker. Was due to play Jeremy Chardy, but Chardy having to withdraw with an injury. Didn't fancy playing Federer in Basel, wouldn't be the first. And pulled out, so that left a chance for another player, and that was